Missouri's Republican Secretary of State is threatening to take President Biden off the state's 2024 presidential ballot as payback for Maine's and Colorado's ruling that Donald Trump's actions leading up to the Capitol Hill insurrection disqualify him from the primary ballot. Jay Ashcroft posted on X that the rulings are disgraceful and that they undermine the republic. Secretary Ashcroft joins us now live. Sir, thank you so much for coming on with us. First, I want you to walk us through your legal reasoning, the reasons for your opposition to the decisions in Colorado and Maine. Why do you think they're flawed?
Well, thank you for having me. It's not just that I think they're flawed, they are flawed. In Maine, you had not a court, not an elected statewide official, but an appointed bureaucrat that decided she did not like one of the opposition candidates to be on the ballot, so she, of her own volition, removed them. That is a terrible
part of Maine's
thing.
state constitution, though. It mandates that the Secretary of State hold a hearing to determine whether a candidate should be on the ballot. So that is the process for Maine, though.
Okay, so that's the process that you would like if one of your children was being prosecuted for a crime in Maine. That's the process.
I don't want to interrupt. I just want to point out, I don't have kids, but that's what's in Maine's state constitution. It's not according to me. It's what's in the Constitution for Maine.
The Constitution of the United States gives the criteria for individuals to run for president. The Maine Constitution does not do that.
But Congress gives the states the ability to determine how their elections are run.
But it does not give them the authority to add conditions to who may run for president. The Supreme Court has held that multiple times. What we saw happen in Maine was a total lack of due process, a total misunderstanding of the 14th Amendment, and a decision made by someone that's not even an attorney, much less a judge. If you look at Colorado, once again, there was no due process. There wasn't the right to cross-examine all witnesses. The president didn't have the right to call the witnesses that he wanted to call. There was hearsay evidence that was allowed in. He's never been convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction of insurrection. And of course, the 14th Amendment on its plain language, if you read it, you'll see it, does not apply to him. It's that clear, and I'm happy to go through the 14th Amendment if you'd want. But my real concern is this. My real concern is that Colorado and Maine have decided that they themselves can suddenly throw off political parties or political individuals that they don't like. That is not good for our country. It's not good for Republicans to do that. It's not good for Democrats to do that. And we should not have secretaries of state making that decision. But if they're going to, it will be applied equally.
Well, I want to get to that, but I do believe that when it comes to due process, the former president's team had the ability in Colorado to be part of that hearing and present evidence, as they did in Maine. They chose not to present evidence to the Secretary of State in Maine, and she ultimately sided with the folks that were trying to get him off the ballot. They are going by the process of their state constitutions, though. I understand your point that the Supreme Court hasn't made a decision.
Constitution. Was hearsay evidence allowed in the Colorado and Maine cases? Simple question. Was it? Yes, it was.
I'm not in a position. I haven't gone through all the evidence. I haven't gone through all the evidence myself to answer the question. Nevertheless, my point, the point behind the question was to get your perspective on why you felt that these legal arguments didn't work. You mentioned that the 14th Amendment doesn't specifically mention the presidency. You mentioned that you believe that President Trump needs to be convicted in order for it to potentially apply to him for insurrection. In other words, you think that when the Supreme Court takes this up, they are going to side with President Trump. Is that correct?
They are going to side against people being thrown off the ballot in this sort of manner. The brief that I will be filing with the United States Supreme Court is not going to say that President Trump is a bad person. It's not going to say that he's a good person. What it's going to say is that this extrajudicial means of removing people from the ballot is catastrophic to our country if it's allowed to continue. Because if Democrats can do it, you know that Republicans will do it. And if Republicans will do it, then Democrats will do it more.
To that point, Secretary, in order to remove President Biden from the ballot, according to your state constitution, you would need to go to court. What do you think would be your strongest argument?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Your state constitution actually states that the Secretary of State lacks authority to assess qualifications of a candidate to determine whether to place a candidate's name on a primary ballot. That's according to section 115.387 of your state constitution.
Sir, what I'm saying is, if the Supreme Court upholds the ruling out of Colorado, and
which went to court to disqualify Donald Trump from the ballot. So you, according to your state constitution, would need to go to court.
Sir, let's just be clear. First of all, you've already said you're not an attorney and you don't know what happened in Colorado. I know
what happened in Colorado, sir. What I said was that I didn't read through all of the evidence specifically to be able to qualify whether there was hearsay or not. To get back to my question, you said that you would decide to remove Joe Biden from the ballot in your state. According to your state constitution, which I just read to you from, it says you need to go to court. I'm asking you what you think your strongest argument is.
And I continue to try to answer your questions, and you continue to try to tell me stuff that just isn't true.
That's not factual, sir. You made an accusation about me not knowing something. I'm trying to clarify it for you. You can choose to answer the question or just continue deflecting. What is the strongest argument you would make in court to remove Joe Biden from the ballot? Go.
What has happened is, what I said in my statement was, if this becomes the law of the land, and the Supreme Court...
That a state can choose how to qualify candidates on the ballot or not according to their state's constitutions? I'm just trying to clarify the point. I'm trying to clarify the point.
The United States Constitution is supreme over state constitutions. I hope you at least understand that. Now, I have to talk a little bit about the Colorado case. In Colorado, that lawsuit started because there's a law that prohibits the election authority, the Secretary of State, from doing something, well, in the vernacular, from doing something they're not supposed to do. That's how the lawsuit started. That same law, or a very similar law, applies to me in Missouri. If anyone can say so-and-so isn't supposed to be on the ballot and it's wrong for you to put them on the ballot, then we're going to see secretaries of state, elections authorities, maybe even county clerks across this country removing people from the ballot. I think that is a terrible thing. I am against that. And what I said was, if the Supreme Court allows it, that slippery slope is going to happen to everybody. They need to stop it from happening to anybody.
I'm sure the Supreme Court will settle whether you can remove someone from the ballot or not, or potentially give guidance on that. I'm wondering, though, what would then be your justification for removing Joe Biden from the ballot in Missouri? Has he engaged, in your mind, in some kind of insurrection?
There have been allegations that he's engaged in insurrection.
How so?
And no, please let me finish. There have only been allegations.
You can't say something like that and not back it up. What do you mean?
I am continuing, but you interrupted me before I could back it up.
Go ahead,
Are you
sir.
scared of the truth?
Oh, I'm not terrified of the truth at all. It seems like you might be. Let's hear what you have to say.
There have only been allegations against
What allegations?
President Trump has never been adjudicated guilty in a court of law.
What did Joe Biden do, in your mind, that equates insurrection? What allegations are you talking about?
I have seen allegations from the Lieutenant Governor of Texas that has said that Joe Biden has been part of insurrection or rebellion. We've seen the governor of Florida say the same thing.
Insurrection over what? What did the governor of Texas say that Joe Biden was causing an insurrection over? If you're going to make the claim, give me some specifics. Are you just going to cite the governor of Texas or Florida and not actually say what they are arguing? Do you know what they're arguing?
What I'm telling you is this. They made allegations, and all it took for former President Trump to be taken off the ballot in Colorado and in Maine were allegations. We should not be a country that removes people from the ballot based on allegations. I think you can agree with that.
I think it depends to a degree.
Oh, so your guy can be removed from the ballot.
My guy, Joe Biden is not my guy. You don't know who my guy is. The point is, sir, the point is that it's not clear whether the 14th Amendment is self-executing or not. In other words, it doesn't matter to a court at that point whether there was a conviction of Donald Trump for insurrection or not. That is a debate for the Supreme Court to have.
He's committed insurrection if there's not a conviction?
A judge decided so in Colorado.
But it wasn't a judge in Maine. It was just the Secretary of State.
Because that's the way the Constitution in Maine is laid out, sir.
The Constitution in Maine gives the Secretary of State the ability to decide whether or not someone is violated.
As part of a process, yes, someone can make the claim that someone shouldn't be on a ballot, that something they did disqualifies them. The Secretary of State is the first layer in a legal process of deciding whether that person belongs on a ballot or not. It's in Maine state constitution. I think you should probably read it, sir, before you make claims about the Maine Secretary of State and their process. We got to leave the conversation there, but I very much appreciate your time. You're welcome back anytime, sir.
Thank you.
Of course. Have a good day. Happy New Year. Stay with CNN News Central. We're back in just moments.